So I'm joined here by David Wilson, who is Managing Partner of DAA International. David, thank you so much for joining me today.
Nice to see you again, Holly.
Firstly, congratulations on your new role with DAA International.
Thank you.
You were previously Chief Operating Officer of Oman Airports. What is your new role as Managing Partner all about, and what's first on your to-do list?
I've got a long to-do list, but in the role of Managing Partner, my job is to oversee 6 subject matter experts who work directly for me, and also for me to support the teams in DAA International who are already deployed in places like Saudi Arabia, for example, and also to try and generate some new business in North America, whilst at the same time supporting the team in business development in Southeast Asia.
And when you say new business, what do you mean?
Well, Dublin Airport Authority Group has got DAA International. We have ARI, Arianta, which is the commercial side of the business, running duty-free in the Portuguese airports, in the Caribbean, some in Canada, etc. And of course, DAA operate Dublin Airport and Cork Airport. So what I'm saying about generating business, it's about responding to the post-pandemic need of airports in terms of process improvement, project oversight, for example, working on consultancy type projects for airports who need a level of support and subject matter expertise. We see North America as well as Southeast Asia as being 2 real growth markets, and that's where there's an opportunity to leverage my network in North America as well as existing business that Arianta have got in Canada and the Caribbean, to try and see if there's any opportunities, as I say, to develop some operational type of business.
Now, you've worked in airports all over the world, such as Gatwick, Edinburgh, Mumbai, Oman, and now DAA International. How would you say these regions vary in the way that airports are run and the challenges that they have? Are there any distinct differences regionally?
There are, but as a simple ops guy, I've always tried to keep it exactly that way, simple. And I see it about people, bags and planes. And when you see one airport, you've seen one airport, but the principle is still the same. The person goes on, checks in, goes on the right flight, the bag's on that same flight, the aircraft departs on time, they're on their destination, and the bag's there, and everybody's happy. But there's distinct differences in India and in the Middle East in particular with European airports and North American airports. And that's cultural differences as well. There's a tendency in the Middle East for people to not want to use digital. There's a tendency to want to have a sort of face-to-face interaction. It's very much about being opposite somebody and giving them a service, if you know what I mean. In India, there's a large majority of blue-collar workers travel regularly, a lot of them working in the Middle East, for example, and they're not regular travellers, so you've got to be really, really careful about making sure they get the right level of service, they know where they're going, they know what they need to do, where they need to go, what paperwork they need, the documentation. So there's a lot of differences in terms of how you ensure the passenger has a good experience. And of course, the European airports, there's so many. There's such a busy aviation network. It's really quite an interesting concept there. Again, when you see frequent flyers, weekend travellers, low-cost carriers, major flag carriers, national flag carriers, for example, etc., etc. So there's real differences, and I think it takes time, effort, and energy to understand those and walk the floor, talk to passengers, understand what their needs are, whilst at the same time understanding what your own business strategies are in terms of the next year to 5 years.
And that's something you used to do, walk the floor at your airports?
Always, I was always on the floor, good 10,000 steps a day, spending time with my team, talking to passengers, talking to the airlines, the ground handlers, walking and talking to the duty-free operators and food and beverage, just to get a grasp of what was actually going on.
And what do you think are the biggest opportunities available to airports right now in this post-pandemic era of travel?
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunities that come with risk as well. I think that the opportunities are there, and we know that the passengers are now wanting to travel again. They really are keen on travelling. People have been stuck at home for a couple of years. They want to travel on business. They want to see see friends and family, they want to go on vacation, holidays. So I think that it's about grasping that opportunity that is there in terms of people bouncing back from the pandemic and wanting to travel more. So I think that's the biggest opportunity. So we've got to make sure the level of service is there, the right manpower is there in terms of resources, so that passengers can travel without any real interruption.
And what is your business outlook for the future of the aviation industry as a whole?
I think the future is very, very bright. Unfortunately, a lot of people lost their jobs during the pandemic, and a lot of those people haven't come back. We've seen instances, certainly in the European airports in particular, whereby there's been a lack of resources to process passengers' bags, etc., and large queues being seen in security, baggage delivery, etc. But I really think the outlook is incredibly positive for all the things I mentioned previously. In particular, people want to travel again. So we are enablers as transport nodes for people to travel for business, leisure purposes. And I think that's where the opportunity really lies. And I think it's really bright future ahead, I think. And I think that the aviation sector has been brilliant about bouncing back from setbacks, whether that be 9/11, SARS, and now the pandemic. But I think that opportunity comes with a risk, and it's just a case of risk assessing that outlook, making sure we're prepared for any eventualities. Who would have expected a pandemic? But I think it's really good practice to do sort of far, medium and near horizon scanning to understand what's coming and what's happening.
Like you mentioned, the Great Resignation is something that we've suffered from during the pandemic, and someone said to me that as an industry we've lost our glamour and edge. What do you think of that? Because obviously you've been in the industry for a long time, so it probably hasn't, in your opinion. But what do you make of that?
I think that the behaviour of passengers has changed. They still want to get through safely and securely, quickly as well. But I think there's a real desire now for passengers to have a real level of confidence in the airline they're travelling with, and also the airport they're travelling through, to ensure it's clean, tidy, and the welfare's being taken care of. That comes with a less glamorous image, I suppose, But I love the aviation sector. I love travelling. I love sitting at international arrivals, watching passengers arriving, and a girlfriend or a boyfriend meeting their partner for the first time in a few weeks, or a mother or father coming home from a business trip and the kids are there, or just people being reunited again. And I think it's just, I've always thought that the aviation sector was glamorous. It might not be like it was in the 1950s and 60s, but I definitely think it's a sector that still has an enormous appeal to so many people for so many reasons.
Now, what's keeping you awake at night?
Oh, that's a good question. Having the time to do everything I need to do. I think we're doing a lot of recruitment at the moment. We are seeing a lot of opportunities in Southeast Asia and North America. There's a lot of requests for proposals coming out, and a lot of the airports who are interested in using or getting a quote from us in terms of a tender submission don't have such a long turnaround time. So the team back in Dublin, my team and I are very, very busy making sure we put a good, high quality submission together. And that probably is what keeps me awake, because there's a lot coming up, and I see there being big opportunities for us to really grow our business. And being a state-owned company, as part of the Ministry of Transport, we know how important we are as DAA to the country of Ireland, but also for our shareholder in particular, generating revenue. So it's really important we get the right submissions in place and generate more revenue through generating more business.
And what do airports need to do to secure their place in the future, in your opinion?
I think they have to be incredibly agile. They have to be really mindful of what changing behaviours there are by passengers. There's the Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Alpha, as some are being called nowadays, in their late teens. I've got a completely different outlook on life to people in my age group, 50 to 60 and beyond. So I think that it's about scanning the horizon again, spending time listening and gathering data to understand better what the travelling passenger wants. Because I think it's really, really important that everybody's treated equally, fairly as an individual, no matter how they're bracketed in terms of Gen X, Gen Y, or whatever they are.
And finally, what are the trends to watch in air travel for 2023, in your opinion?
2023, I think it's still going to be everything on your mobile phone. I think. I don't think there's going to be a drastic sea change in 2023. I was moderating a panel discussion this morning about innovation, collaboration, and transformational technology, and I think that airports have probably stalled a little bit in the last few years in terms of the rollout of biometric technology. A lot of that because of the cost and because of the drop in passenger numbers. But I think biometric, seamless travel and touchless travel is going to continue. I think that's what's going to be happening, and then of course the passenger trends are going to be really, really interesting to see how they pan out over the coming few months and years. And we have to be agile, and that's the word that we're using, to respond to those needs of the passenger and the airlines to ensure we meet those needs.
David, that was my last question. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.